Hello, thank you for everyone. Thank you everyone for coming. In master ceremonies intro masa I want to welcome everyone to come to the organization of Istanbul Armenians award ceremony for the fourth Vahakn Dadrian award and on his 5th year of passing. I want to give a little bit of context as to what this award is, and as many of you have already come to the past events, I want to just give extra historical context and some social context. One of the missions of this, one of the aims of this ceremony is to further the legacy of Dadrian's life mission of making the reality of Armenian genocide a socially and politically accepted truth, and developing the academic field of Armenian genocide studies. Many of his students and others in Armenian genocide studies and genocide studies abroad have taken on the same mission. It's important to note that Dadrian, an Armenian born and educated in Armenian schools within the Republic of Turkey, and later getting his higher education in Europe and the US, was very well suited for being one of the godfathers of this field within Armenian genocide studies. One, because of how many languages he knew, and also that he also grew up in a post-genocidal society, which many Armenians had left, and he felt that post-genocidal reality. I want to remind everybody here that during the 1970s and into the 80s, when Dadrian began more deeply investigating the Armenian genocide, which at that time the event was still relatively little, it was a little-known historical event for most of the world. Within that context, Armenians globally had already began bringing up the genocide issue within protests within their respective countries. There was even radical militant groups assassinating Turkish diplomats, making the headline news. But one would assume that this would somehow ease the Armenian genocide becoming a more known fact within non-Armenian circles. However, Dadrian dealt with a huge onslaught of Turkish denialism. He had to deal with hundreds of denialist literature coming out in the 1980s, many respectable historians and scholars being paid by the Turkish government, and at the same time dealing with the Turkish diplomatic talking points, denialist talking points. And I can't speak to the level of reaction and defense one has to engage in, but Dadrian continued dealing with that exhaustive effort. And one would wonder, and some would know better than myself, like Maggy, how much that fueled or motivated his own work. During a time it was very difficult to bring the Armenian genocide to the forefront within the public square. And Dadrian, fortunately, because of that motivation and his own personal motivations, had many publications, and he helped pave the way for other scholars. Of course, we had other scholars like Richard Hovhannisyan in parallel, opening up the pathways for new scholars to come in and develop the field. And most importantly, our first award, Itan Nerachyan, which was Dadrian's student. With all that said, we're in a place now, at least in academia, where the Armenian genocide is a relatively accepted historical fact and has very insignificant opposition within at least Western academia. Of course, this is not to say within Turkish and Azerbaijani academia, this is a totally different reality. Additionally, there is no other award or medal of a modern Armenian scholar that I'm aware of. This is unique, and even more unique that it's not taken up by an academic institution, but a compatriotic association, like the organization of Istanbul Armenians. Armenians generally honor their history, but not always those who write their history. And not always for those historians that look at things critically. This event, this organization, this idea of having an award ceremony for a modern Armenian scholar is kind of filling up that gap. I don't want to elongate my introduction. Our first speaker was going to be Maggy Mangassarian, like the Goschin. I think we're switching things up due to technical issues. But I want to emphasize that it's great that we're able to honor the professor, and we also have 3 very accomplished females helping us do that at the same time. And I want to first, maybe, let me just clarify something technically. Maggy te ananın.
Just big one.
Sure. So we had technical difficulties where Maggy Mangassarian, the Goschin, has a very extensive array of photos tied to Dadrian and possibly his archive. But I want to, 2 of our speakers, Anna Alexandrian and Lucinish Sakian, are in Yerevan right now, and it's too late to join any Zoom call. So we have pre-recorded videos of them. So the only live person that we have speaking is myself and Maggy. Maggy has an extensive history with the professor, as many of you probably already know. And these photos, I believe that's of Lucine Sakian in the back, and her daughter. This I hadn't seen. But yeah. I'm hoping that Lucine speaks of her most recent book, which is this mashallah work of the Jerusalem archive. As you know, we still have a lot of work to do. So Vahakn, Dadrian, I'm going to fill up the gap, but I want to say my own ideas of Armenian genocide studies currently. We've come to a place where there's very few people in Ottoman or Turkish studies within the West that are denialists. There are still some, but it is a decreasing number. And we think we've come to a good place. Of course, Joe Biden has recognized Armenian genocide. We possibly could get some grants, some federal grants, because of the US government accepting it. Of course, we have bigger issues in Armenia to deal with. However, there's still a lot more work to be done within Armenian genocide scholarship. Significantly much more work to be done within regional studies, perpetrator studies. We don't know enough about the perpetrators that were engaged. We don't know about the micro districts, the small districts, the provincial elites, the provincial property confiscation. There's so many new areas. But how does it look? So we're back to the original plan. So I want to introduce Maggy Mangassarian Goschin, who has served as the museum director of the Ararat Eskijan Museum for the past 27 years. In this role, Maggy has turned the museum into a world-class cultural and educational center that houses authentic Armenian heirlooms. While managing and preserving the museum's artifacts, she has also hosted various programs, including interpretive exhibitions, literary events, musical programs, and public lectures. Maggy takes pride in the museum's recent expansion to 3 libraries, a rare archival room on the Armenian genocide, and a periodical room for students, researchers, and scholars of the field of Armenian studies and the Caucasus. I just sent her a scholar a few weeks ago. Thank you, Maggy. She continues to advance the museum's collection and encourages families to participate in the preservation of active preservation of Armenian history and to appreciate their personal family heritage. I want to thank someone I've known for a very long time, and she's very commendable. Thank Maggy. Come and say.
I'm sorry, because I don't have a computer and I'm going to be glancing here, but I don't need it. It's my fault because there was a corruption in my file, that's why it was delayed. That's why the lecture was delayed. I want to say thank you to the Organization of Islamic Armenians, all the organizations who are participating. If Dadrian was here, he would have said, Aferin Avedikian. Every time I contacted him and said, Professor, we're interested to have you, the first thing he would say, don't forget to call the pharmacist Avedikian, because they have to be involved in this, otherwise I'm not coming. Of course, it took me years to convince him to come, because I'm a small museum, and he said he doesn't give to museums. But then in 2003, he surprised me. He called at home. My daughter answered the phone, and he said, someone by the name Vahakn is here. I said, hang up the phone, somebody's ready to joke on me. And sure enough, it was him. He says, I'm tired of the political groups, no offense to anybody. I want you to invite me and I will come. But OIE has to be involved in it. And we began a series of lectures and it became non-stop. Why would I get involved? And I'm not a scholar. but something connected us together. 1995, Rubina doesn't know, she was the doctor of Filipino. I went to see Professor Dadrian for the first time in Pasadena. I had read his articles, I was fascinated. I've always followed Professor Mangassarian's lectures for 30 years. I would never miss any one of them. And for me, all of a sudden, Dadrian, I keep reading about Dadrian. So I went to Pasadena. 4 hours, we were glued in a chair. He wouldn't stop, and I was glued to the chair, because I love history. Anything with history, I would be there. But he didn't start with a lecture. He started with Sharagan. I had never seen a professor that would come and start with the Sharagan. And that's what it was, because that was a clue for me. And I was so young and naive that was his identity. That's how he showed it. Anyhow, years passed, and then he started sending us duplicate copies of his books and lecture series and all that. And then in 2009, our chairman said, you know what? I like him, he's very good, I'm an engineer, I'm not into history, but we have to do something about his archives. Let's go ahead and digitize it. I said, I have no clue about archives, I'm the last person. But I have very high respect for Dadrian. I said, I'll ask him, but I know the answer is going to be no. And he came in 2009, it was a lecture here. After that, he came to our house and we showed him with the technician. Right away he said, when can you start? I couldn't believe it. And then, but he said, you can't come to my house to pick up the archives. I'll mail them to you. I said, Professor, I don't trust in mail, because these are our genocide archives. It doesn't matter, I've done everything in books. So it was a lot of hiccups, but then I knew that wasn't going to go after a while. But then opportunity came in October that I had to go to meet him with someone else. From the moment I walked in, and this is where we are at his house in Kansas, which is about 45 minutes outside Rochester. That's where the village, the town of Kansas is. It's a college town, and that's where he taught for 45 years in different disciplines. So the outskirts of the town is the lake shore, which is a beautiful lake. It's a beautiful, serene place. It's a small town. There's no motels, no navigation, no internet. If you go there at night, you're stuck there. There's no lights. So we printed out when we went. We arrived there at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then he had blasted his classical music. There's nobody there. You couldn't hear anything. You couldn't even open the door. We were stuck there for an hour until he came down and opened the door. There's no cell phone, because it's only landline. And he's by the landlines, then he will answer the phone. Nevertheless, from the moment I walked in, I was already taken, because I thought that I was coming to a historical house. And this is the hallway to go up the house. And then all oriental rugs. On the left side were 2 paintings, because I'm sorry that they're not here. It was the defense of Sassoon. Beautiful paintings, 5 by 5 each one. I realized I was in an Armenian home, not in an academician home, but Dadrian as a person. So once we were up, I realized the house was divided into 2 portions. On the left side was his library, which all his studies are. Everything has to be European. But the minute you pass the hallway to the east side, we are in Armenia. We are in Istanbul. Everything was Armenian. Armenian music, Armenian paintings. He had a commission of Sayat Nova songs, battle scenes, of heroic battle scenes of Avaray, Antrangi, David Peg. You name it, it was there. And I said to myself, I feel like I was in a twilight zone. Well, he said, that's my academic life, this is my home. I leave my academic here, I come to my personal home. Then I realized that he has no family, he's by himself. That's why he created in the middle of nowhere this beautiful Armenian home that he calls it home. That's how he identifies himself. Because there's nothing there, there's no Armenian there. Even you will see the pictures later on, even his office there's an Armenian rug, because that's what's him. Then it took me back to the past, how all the time he has this Armenian charagans and poems, because that's what he wanted to connect himself. And this is what I'm talking about, the paintings of Serukian, which he had commissioned. This is the defense of Sassoon. At night I couldn't see the light, I thought it was Zaytun, then I realized it was Sassoon. Fortunately, we were able to, after his demise, we were able to secure those paintings. And now they're part of the museum. And today we had a guest from Madina Taran. She said, we have all of Serukian collection, but we don't have this size. They're smaller size. So we're thinking to do something together about his paintings. And this is Al-Trabi. This is Avarai, and that Avarai was in his bedroom, right across from his bed. I said, what do you do at night? You talk about your heroes. And he laughed. He said, that makes me stronger. Because sometimes you have to joke with him to break the routine. And the other one is Dadrian. These are 6 by 6, 6 feet by 6 feet size. And the only picture in the living room, besides the Armenian paintings, was his father's picture. Well, I didn't know. I said, who's this handsome grandpa? And he looked at me, he said, that's my father. I said, I'm sorry, I took that a turn. And he said, I know, he said, he looks older. I said, did he get married older? Because he doesn't talk about his family. Nothing, he doesn't share. He said, he's my father and he's a judge. You know that he had a very good position in the government. I said, that's why you followed the law. And he said, no, I was a mathematician first. I said, Professor, you don't change. He said, well, because of Franz Wechtel and I asked you, ladies and gentlemen, in Germany, my professor introduced me and I had a change of heart and I changed my direction. I said, you don't change your religion overnight. This is something that inside you. It sparks. And then I said, those 2 books became the light that sparked in you. And then he smiled and he walked away. That means I'm not talking anymore about it. Then I have to stop. Otherwise he would tell me to leave and I have to leave. This is Dadrian when he was a year old, with his sister Adride. So the father and the previous marriage with children, they ended up in exile. And then his wife died. And they came back from the war. Of course, the compatriots always stick together, compatriot union. So he met the love of his life that he had met before, but couldn't marry her because by mistake. He saw the bride, and he told his parents, I saw at the neighbor's house, the lady that I fell in love with, I want to marry her. So they went and asked the hand, it was the wrong girl. Because he saw somebody visiting them, it wasn't the daughter of the family. So he told his parents, I don't want to marry her, this is not the woman I want. They said, too late. We already asked her hand. We are a prominent family. We can't break now the engagement. Then the girl is scarred. And so he married. He had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Adrien was the 3rd one. And then after the war, he came back and lost his wife and mother. We want to take care of the kids. So he married the woman that he fell in love with. They met. She had lost her husband. She had lost her child. And then Dadrian and his sister were born. They're 15 years apart between the first and the last, Dadrian 13 years. That's why. But then after 3 years, the mother died. So I said, Professor, where is your mom? We don't have to have a picture. He said, I don't know my mother. I never saw her. And then he said, at the age of 5, I was sent to boarding school. My father couldn't manage. He was very distraught. And the years of the war had taken toll on him. So all his life, he lived by himself. That's why he did isolation. That's why he was able to do it. Whatever all the publications that he did. But all of this took me years to put together because as I was canvassing it, there was missing points. And one day I approached him, I said, you've done meticulous work on every single person in your archives as I was putting the files together, but there's nothing about Dadrian family. And he smiled. And then later on, after his demise, we found more boxes that we brought. Here there was a file about Dadrian family that he had done extensive research. Even the family tree of the thing. Even got in touch with Elia Kazan, who was in the movie of America, America, that happened in Gesaya in Ghanaian village. And he got in touch with the producer because he talked about the village where his family from. I said, in essence, you carried the scar and the wounds of your family, not our people only, but your family as well. That's why you turned to this. And he smiled and he didn't say anything. This was my conclusion at the end, after seeing all of this. I saw him in a different perspective, not as a scholar, as an individual. This is him after the parents, the mother was gone, and Mrs. Maggy, he's 5 years old, and from there he went to boarding school. This is from the left, the first or the second, he's in a boarding school, elementary school. This is as a teenager in Ohio, in Robert College in Istanbul, Berlin. This is Heidelberg. This is his favorite picture, but I can't find it because after I went, the house was in disarray. This is in Germany as a graduate. And this is his office in Geneseo, again, Armenian run. Remember when he went, he had to have something Armenian to identify himself. And this is in his bed. I have this in our library that I say good morning to him every day. This is with Don McKean when I went in 2010, having she was asking for the book, 100-Year Walk. She needed questions. Here again, as you can see, the library, there's no space to move in the library. This is after we cleaned up everything. And his desk. As you can see, this is memorabilia. Yes. Everything has to be in order. German philosopher, German musicians, Oriental rugs everywhere, Armenian embroidery. This is his bedroom. This is after this 2016, they renovated it. This bed used to be on the left, right across was a sedir with pillows, as if, I said, I thought I was coming to my grandmother's house. I felt like I was part of the history, constantly. And then pillows, little pillows, embroideries. And then like the Avarai picture, the big painting. I have to say that all the windows were all nailed because he was always scared somebody's going to attack him. I didn't find anything in his file except letters that he's canceling his conferences because he had some phone calls. But I don't know anything that I haven't seen personally because he keeps everything very detailed. Even the exit of the house, there's only one exit. And it's a wooden exit. When I went in 2012 to pick up, we had 8 luggages of archives to bring with us. Afterwards, he got convinced that there was no other way for us. We can't do by mail. So I said, either we stop the project or we continue. He said, continue. Then I said, I'm going to come and pick up the archives. We thought that we had everything. We didn't know there was so much in the closets that he had nailed them and put rugs in front of it. He's hiding them. I don't know. Maybe the fear of lonesomeness made him that way. I don't know. You guys are living in a very remote area. So, and these are all the medals and the accolades that he received from the Armenian government, from the Catholicos, and always had to have a killing. Even though there was a quilt, had to have a killing on top of the bed. That was something that he always wanted. He wanted to feel that he is home, and by himself, there's nobody else. This is Edward as we're getting ready to pick up. This is in 2011, end of 2011, we're picking up and getting ready. And this is my husband and myself. This is 2016. Because the entire house, wall to wall, the floors are rugs. And because of this no good circulation, it's an older home, not settled in. And we got into the paperwork. So the trustee called me, the landlord, and he said, you need to come and you need to help us. I brought a crew to clean up, but I don't know what to do with the papers. You think I do it? So me and my husband went for a week and put them in buckets so that then we can sort them out that way. So to clean up all the old rugs up and put it in order everything. And these are, that closet is closed, that's what's inside. That we found that closet, we didn't know it was existent. This is his favorite spot. Every time we went, he wanted to have a lunch there or dinner. It's a beautiful place, and this is what it is, the waterfall. And it's a nice restaurant there. And I think Professor Ackerman and everybody that has gone, he takes them there. And you can see the people there and the water. And this becomes to a lake, and the lake is right across from his house. This is in his honor at the museum. We created an alcove. So every person that walks in the museum will know something about Professor Dadrian. So they will not be left, young or old. And this is our homage to him. And that's what I wanted to share with you. And Dadrian from a different angle. Thank you very much, and thank you for your I want to say thank you also to Professor Akram, even though he's not here, maybe he'll be watching it, for his leadership, and to Anda Alexandra, who will be sharing with you. She has been working for a year now on the Dadrian archives, creating a spreadsheet to make it searchable for the new generation of scholars coming. We have created the index the way the Dadrian has the files, but then I said I'm not the scholar, so she goes each file page by page, and she creates a spreadsheet. That's what she'll be sharing with you. That's why I didn't want to talk more about the archives. Our project is still progressing at UCLA Library. It's a slow process, but it's the best location. So hopefully, once it's finished, it's going to be available on the website. Thank you.